Alright guys, welcome to a classic film review of 1990's Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg. Now this was directed by Jerry Zucker and it is, of course, one of the most iconic romance films of the 1990s. But if that's not your thing, then don't let this dissuade you, because the romance angle is only part of the picture here. This is also a genuine comedy classic and also a pretty solid thriller. Now, some of its, at the time, bleeding edge visual effects may have aged in the last 3.5 decades, but many of its themes haven't. Now, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way straight away, because this movie became famous for featuring a romantic scene between Swayze and Moore as they get creative with a pottery table as the Righteous Brothers cover of Unchained Melody swells on the soundtrack. Now, it's a moment that's been parodied and referenced countless times in pop culture, and more likely than not, it's the scene that you think of when you think of Ghost. But it's the film's blessing and curse, because there's a lot more going on here than just massaging phallic-shaped lumps of clay. Let's take a look. So Ghost is the story of Sam Wheat and Molly Jensen, a couple whose future together is cut short when Sam's tragically murdered in a sinister mugging. Now, as a result of this, he becomes trapped between the world of the living and the dead, and spends the movie desperately trying to communicate with Molly and protect her from danger. Now, you see Sam's work partner, Carl, played by a brilliantly slimy Tony Goldwyn, is laundering money for some unsavoury characters and needs Sam's access to their workplace computer. Now, Sam is obviously frustrated at being a spirit that cannot be seen or heard, and must initially mope around watching his fiancée grieve and eventually become a victim of his villainous work colleagues' advances. Although as time goes by, he does begin to learn to interact with the land of the living, in small ways at first with the help of another spirit, but eventually in more and more inventive ways.
What the hell you doing? You're trying to move it with your finger.
You can't push it with your finger. You're dead.
And this is where the film's secret weapon is detonated, and that's Whoopi Goldberg's fake spiritualist, Oda Mae Brown. Now, she's been fleecing grieving customers for years by pretending to speak to the deceased, so she's more than a bit shocked when it turns out that she can actually hear Sam.
Say my name, say it.
Leave me alone.
Sam Wheat, say it.
Oh,
Say my name, Sam Wheat, say it.
Talk to me, Oda Mae. Say something. Who are you? Sam Wheat.
Jesus.
And she reluctantly agrees to help him communicate with Molly. Now, this is peak of her powers Whoopi Goldberg, whose performance provides the levity needed amongst the romantic heartbreak and the sinister robbery murder plot.
It just asked me to remind you of the sweater that's in the closet that you knitted. It's too big. 4 sizes. I'm not going to stay down here all day.
Thank God.
Oh, man, shut up.
So much so that it earned Goldberg a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. She's definitely the secret sauce here that holds everything together. It is a great performance, just the right amount of loudmouth comedy and heartwarming sympathy. And much comedy derived here from having conversations with a ghost that nobody else can see or hear.
Looks like you'll be withdrawing $4 million from us today.
$4 million.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's correct.
Easy, easy.
Now, the late Patrick Swayze here was already a post-Dirty Dancing heartthrob, and no doubt instrumental in ensuring Ghost was by far the highest grossing movie of 1990, easily beating out competition from mega hits like Pretty Woman, Home Alone and the Ninja Turtles phenomenon. I'm never sure what happened to Swayze post the following year's Point Break movie. He made a handful of poor movies and never really recovered, which is a real shame because he was quite a likeable star. But he was pretty much market corrected by other actors, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, etc. It's my favourite role of his though, and even though he doesn't have a huge amount of chemistry with Demi Moore, his scenes with Goldberg are fantastic.
Molly, you're in danger.
Now, you can't just blurt it out like that. And quit moving around, will you? Because you're starting to make me dizzy. I'll just tell her in my own way. Molly, you in danger, girl.
Now, back when I was a slightly younger nerd, Demi Moore was one of the top tier female actors, in more of a movie star way really than any kind of serious actress, to be honest. She was never bothering the Oscar categories, but did in fact win a few Worst Actress Golden Raspberry Awards. And she was doing great up until the point she threw a grenade on her own career with the mid-90s 1-2 punch of Striptease and G.I. Jane. Now, you can read a lot into Ghost if you want. In its villain, Carl, it obviously still suffers the hangover of the yuppie dog-eat-dog 80s corporate greed angle, and so there's a frustrated euphoria to be found when Sam and Oda Mae get hold of his gangster money and donate it to a charity.
Well, I just want to feel it one more time in my finger, that's all.
give
So
the
fill
lady
it out.
the chicken.
I will!
You can do it. Give her the check.
I will!
Now, for a ghost story, and one that even gives us glimpses of white heavenly lights and dark spectres dragging dead bad guys downwards, there's no actual mention of heaven or God or religion, so the film does sit on the fence in terms of faith, which I think is good because it can focus more on just shenanigans. So the film's director, Jerry Zucker, also made comedy mega hits like Airplane, Police Squad and Top Secret. And here he throws a few different genres into a pot, making sure he adds a little something for everyone. Of course, the romance element was the main selling point at the time, and it's the spine of the film. Sam trying to protect Molly even after his death, but that never really overshadows the movie or takes away from its thriller and, in a few moments, horror elements. Now, speaking of which, the villains in Ghost, both Tony Goldwyn's oily Carl Bruner and his hired goon, Willie Lopez, played by Rick Aviles, are both great antagonists, but no one is safe from the fate that awaits any bad guys here. In stark contrast to the warm, dazzling light of the afterlife, we have these dark demons formed from the shadows that come to take your soul to hell. That sounds like something from an 80s horror movie, and to be fair, when I was younger, it wasn't far off. Even though 1990s visual effects haven't held up that well, these demonic visitations are soundtracked by some eerie effects. Now, in 1990, Ghost featured cutting-edge visual effects, having Sam's ghost be able to walk through walls and people and jump between train cars, etc. wasn't easy to achieve and can look quite quaint now, but I do have to say I still love that odd effect of having the ghost's body kind of go cold and freeze if it's left inside a door or a wall for too long. Now, Ghost lost out to Total Recall for the visual effects Oscar that year, but the film was nominated for 5 Oscars in total, including Best Film, and of course one for Whoopi Goldberg and for its screenplay. Now, Goldberg also won the BAFTA, the Golden Globe, and a few other awards for that part. Now, the movie is a cultural icon, there's no doubt. It's helped in no small part also to that pottery scene, which is, like I said, one of the most iconic moments in 90s cinema. It inspired a musical stage version, Ghost the Musical, I think it was called, and even a Japanese remake. Now, if you've got this far in the review and think this film's maybe still not for you, or maybe you've seen it back in the day and you remember it as a straight-up romance, or maybe that Righteous Brothers song just reminds you of the endless pottery parodies, then I challenge you to give it another shot. Go check it out.
They told me what it was like. They told me all about it, but now that I got it, I don't think I want it. So do me a favor, just go away. Find somebody else.
Somebody else, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, I'm getting there fast.
Well, I think she hit her head harder than we think.